Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti alla Digital Alps Conference 2022. Questa seconda edizione si svolge con un formato ibrido, quindi in presenza qua nella bellissima città di Trieste, ringrazio l'amministrazione regionale del Friuli per l'accoglienza, e online sulla piattaforma Zoom e sullo streaming YouTube. Questo evento fa parte del calendario eventi della Presidenza italiana
of the event calendar of the EUSALP Presidency of the Province of Trento and Bolzano, and is organized by the Action Group number 5 that deals with connectivity and access to services of general interest, and by Action Group number 3 that develops the topics of employment market, education and training. My name is Carlo Vigna from Valle d'Aosta region of the Action Group number 5. Together with me I have Thomas Egger, co-leader of Action Group 5 and moderator of today's event. Here with us we have Giuliana Cristoforetti of the Action Group number 3. As you will see, we are connected with the roadshow, EUSALP roadshow, by the Alps Convention. Digitalization is an important trend, and COVID certainly accelerated this dynamic of digitalization. The challenges for the rural and alpine areas in these dramatic context that have also saw the invasion of Ukraine further challenges. This event intends to discuss about the regions, the municipalities, in order to create visions and common solutions to the benefits of citizens and all the enterprises operating at local level. What we're going to do is trying to give voice to the young, to involve them in our process, because they are the future of the alpine space. So I would like to give the floor to Thomas Egger. So we have many topics to discuss here today, so please lead us in this two-day event. Thank you. Thank you, Carlo.
Here for me, and I will also moderate the 2 days in English. You know that this Digital Alps conference happens now for the second time. Last time it was exclusively online, this time hybrid. Maybe the next time we can go for something really on-place, physical. I hope so. Carlo already said it, the Digital Alps Conference is meant to be like the crystallization point for all topics on digitalization in the alpine space, in the alpine area. We want to bring together all the experiences, all the political messages also on digitalization in the alpine area through this conference. Last time we had 250 participants. This time, as it is hybrid, etc., we have a little bit less, but still we are very happy with all your participants, also home or at work on the screen as you are with us. Thank you very much. We have a lot of topics. Carlo already said it. We are talking about digital infrastructures. We are talking about how to use these infrastructures with approaches like smart villages, smart SMEs. We are also talking about, and this is for me very future-orientated, on how to deal with data. Because once we deal with digitalization, it is a lot also of data. How can we steer the access to data? So these are all topics that we are going to discuss with you these 2 days. We have separated the 2 days. The first day is more focused on political aspects, and the second day, tomorrow, will then be more on technical aspects. And this I will explain to you step by step then afterwards in the discussion. But we have also with us AG3, and we are very thankful for that, because when I talked before about the priorities, there is one which was missing in my list, which is digital skills. We can only use the digital tools if we have the skills, and AG3 is there to show us how this works.
Grazie. Buonasera a tutti.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Action Group 3, my name is Giuliana Cristoforetti, the co-leader of AG3, the EUSALP coordination group by the Autonomous Province of Trento. This is a complex topic, the one we are going to address today. Therefore, our province wanted a very broad leadership. I have with me Cristina Roiati from the Education Service of the province of Trento, Marco Casotto, manager of Trentino Sviluppo. I would like to thank them for being here, and Paola Carpari, who is not here but deals with the labor market. My colleagues, I would like to mention them because our work is extremely important. So I would like explicitly thank Paola Del Rio that will connect with us later for the roadshow, and then Giorgia Borghini, Emma Mitrotta, Laura Stedile, and Milana, who are in Trento. I would like also to thank Mirko Bisesti, the Minister of the Autonomous Province of Trento, for his support on the training and the labor market issues, but is particularly attentive to the commitments is being involved during the last few months. Here we have also Paola Raya, who's the head of his cabinet. This year, as a AG3 group, we have addressed three important topics. First, as Carlo Vigna said, our commitment for dual training. We are developing a reference practice for the Alpine space that may help us to highlight the important best practices for dual training, and it is a considerable work. We are also working on the standardization of soft skills at an Alpine level, together with our colleagues in Friuli, Venezia, Giulia, Mr. Fabris in particular, and with Lombardy region, which has a specific interest in this issue, that is the mutual recognition of ATS titles. So for the future of our action group, we would like to consolidate these working and study sectors, and we also would like to implement one of the key factors of our presidencies, that is the relation between rural and urban areas, together with the cooperation of the AG5 group, and support those actions that may enable us to work in the Alpine space, not only how to work in the Alps, but also how digitalization can help the labor market of the future in this area, by making our Alps also an attractive area from the labor point of view. So we shall cooperate actively.
Group 3, and my dear colleague Carlo Vigna, co-leader of Action Group 5. And when I say Action Group, this already raises maybe some question marks. What is an Action Group? We are all working here for the macro-regional strategy for the Alpine area, EUSALP. And today is very particular because we have also outside a presentation to the general public of this macro-regional strategy. And this is organized by the Permanent Secretariat of the Alpine Convention. I see already on my screen Wolfgang Meyerhofer, who is connected. Wolfgang, do you hear me? We don't hear you.
Aha.
Now it's good, now it's good.
No, okay, that's fine.
Perfect.
Should work when talking about digitalization.
That's fine, it works. What are you doing out there? Can you tell us a little bit about this roadshow that you have organized?
Io vorrei continuare in Italia.
I would like to continue in Italian for my introduction, if possible. Thank you. I would like to welcome you all. My name is Wolfgang Mayhofer, and of the action group dealing with natural and cultural resources coordinated by the Alps Convention and by the Canton region. This is an action group that deals with the common strategy for the Alpine region. Together with my colleagues, I'm happy to be here in Trieste for the EUSALP roadshow dedicated to the activities of Action Group 3 and 5. Roadshow is a communication activity targeted for the strategy to be known to the citizens and the added value it brings to the citizens. This is included in the second Digital Alps conference that is going to provide a framework on the potentials of digitalization for services of general interest, as well as for the connectivity and the sustainable development of rural areas. To this regard, the ministers of the Alpine Convention adopted in 2009 a political declaration on the culture, and with this they committed to improve the access of rural areas through digitalization. This is why the Alpine Convention and EUSALP work towards the same direction. I hope I will meet you later on in our space here outside. I wish every success to your conference. Thank you. Thank you, Wolfgang. If you want to know what happens, it's just right outside the hotel.
To visit also this roadshow during the coffee break, and we will also make a short connection with him to see what is going outside there, because it was really the intention also of the Italian presidency of the EUSALP to interact with the general public, to give a visibility to EUSALP, not only here in closed rooms or on the screen, but really also to interact with the people who may be outside there. And now we are very, very happy to be this year finally in Trieste, because already last year we wanted to be in Trieste. We had planned everything for a physical conference, but we could not do it. We all know why it was with the COVID-19 crisis. It's still not really over, but we hope that the situation is really getting better and better and better. And we already had your key messages last year on the screen, but now this year I'm really happy to have you in presence. Sebastiano Callari, who is Assessore, or in English, Minister of the Friuli, Venezia, Giulia region, autonomous region, and also Deputy Coordinator of the Commission for Technology, Innovation and Digitalization of the Conference of Italian Regions, Autonomous Regions. So you are really familiar with the topic, and I can really invite you to the podium now to say us some words, and many thanks again for being with us.
Ecco, buongiorno a tutti, è un'occasione molto importante, sono molto onorato di darvi il benvenuto nella nostra splendida città, di cui mi auguro in questo.
I have the honor to welcome you here in Trieste, in this beautiful city. I hope you will appreciate the hospitality and reception potentials of this city, but also the cultural potentials of this city. I'm very glad to participate in an event where we speak about digitalization. 4 years ago, when I was given the mandate to deal with the public information services for the region, many of my colleagues were glad not to have to deal with it, because 4 years ago digitalization looked very far from the political debate. It appeared as if it were only exclusive for a few people, and what digitalization meant was basically writing on PC what was previously written on paper. Actually, in the last 4 years, I discovered an extraordinary word. I repeatedly say that we are experiencing a human revolution that can be as important as the invention of the wheel. Because digitalization gives us the opportunity to move as the wheel did in, of course, a larger measure. The Alpine area, Alps, are an important and huge heritage from the artistic and cultural point of view, and they needed more connection. And especially we need to reduce that depopulation of the Alpine areas that in the last decades led young people to leave those areas and search for other job opportunities in other areas. However, digitalization gives us the opportunity to repopulate those areas because the urban areas can be led closer to the rural Alpine areas. So we wish that the young people may find new job opportunities in their home areas. I believe that the young people in digitalization are a great opportunity for ideas incubation. Digitalization shall focus on that. So nowadays, Europe is investing on new generation. Let's think about the next generation EU process, because we want to give young people an opportunity to think about a different Europe, a Europe which is inclusive, which is solid, where no one is left behind, and policy needs to invest a lot on that. Since for the last 4 years, in addition to this mandate, I also have a role within the Alpine Conference. For 3 years, I was president of the commission, and now I am also in the committee for digitalization of the Committee of Region for the digitalization of rural areas. And our future is certainly made of risks, of problems also, but the digital media can be an opportunity for inclusion, but also can create discrimination. Let's think about those who have no the digital literacy that is needed, and we need to invest in digital skills. We shall not only invest on broadband or facilities or infrastructures. It would be as if building roads without building vehicles able to travel on those roads. So the young people can help us, because digital millenniums are more familiar with than people, of my age, I would say. But I feel young and inside, and thinking that each one of us can have a leading role in the digitalization future. So I would like to wish you this event every success, because this is an important opportunity to seize in order to listen to those speaking here in these 2 days, to listen about the skills necessary in this process. Thank you. Thank you, Minister.
Which are guiding us also, because you also mentioned the young people. The young people had this morning a workshop where they were discussing about what digitalization can bring to our Alpine area, and I'm very keen also myself to listen what they have found out. This is really the connection that we want to do with the young people. We are running under an Italian presidency of EUSALP, actually, and for this we would first like to have a video introduction into this Italian presidency. Thank you very much. If you have looked at the video and identified the two arms of codes, on the bottom right side you have identified two autonomous provinces. The Italian presidency is operated by two autonomous provinces, Bolzano and Trento, and we are very happy to have here as a representative of those two, let's say, presidencies, so those two teams, Mirko Besti, Assessore del Trentino.
Grazie.
Thank you. Thank you for your invitation. I also, on behalf of the autonomous province of Bolzano and Trento and of the autonomous region of Friuli, Venezia, Giulia, I would like to thank the Minister Sebastiano Callari for the hospitality and the opportunity to be here in presence physically. I would like to start with some consideration. So thanks.
Thanks to Giuliana Cristoforetti of the Action Group 3, but mi piacerebbe proprio partire dalle considerazioni fatte.
I would like to start with the consideration the Friuli Venezia Giulia region minister said when he said that the revolution of the digital media is connected to the discovery of the wheel. I think that our challenge, the challenge we are all called upon today, is to build all the road that may enable these wheels, all of us, to reach our territories. Our focus, starting from Nice, when we inaugurated when we closed the 2 years of French presidency, I would like to thank for the work performed and the launch or the opening of our presidency in Bolzano and to Bozen, and also to be here in Trieste, because not only metaphorically but also physically our Alpine arc has the challenge to build those routes, those give our young people these skills that are necessary for this future. The digital topic is certainly a hot topic nowadays, but it's also one of the topics that under the Italian presidency of EUSALP, how to reduce the gap between rural and urban areas is fostering the infrastructures that need to connect also those beautiful landscapes you've seen in the video, where today's main challenge is to give the opportunity, especially to young generations, to resist, to be there, to work there without any digital gap as against those living in urban areas. So I would also glad that in this 2-day event, the young people will have the opportunity to express themselves. They met this morning in order to discuss, to exchange views, and we wanted to include the young people in EUSALP work with the EUSALP Youth Council, because they will have the task to provide incentives also in a time of crisis, and also to seize the proper opportunities for our future by building them. Thanks to your help, I'm sure we will be able to do that by exchanging the best practices starting from Nice in order to move towards Trieste and Slovenia and in all the 48 regions of the macro-regional strategy of EUSALP. I believe that moving towards this direction, we will be able not only for the strategy to be successful, but also to provide responses to our areas. Yesterday, in the framework of Trento Film Festival, movie festival, film festival destined to the high lands, not only Europe but all over the world. This is the 70th anniversary of this festival, which is the second only to the Venice Film Festival as for age. So we participated because we wanted to give an important message. The title is what connects me to my area, and by referring especially to the alpine space that goes hand in hand with our macro-regional strategy. So we decided to give voice to those short movies, to those films that were able to highlight the spirit, the sacrifices of those investing in the mountain areas using digitalization. And the building of the digital infrastructure network is an opportunity to give everyone the same opportunities in the alpine space. In this way, we will be able to give our young people not only the opportunity to remain on the mountains, but also we will have the opportunity to attract more young people moving towards the mountain areas in such beautiful landscapes. We are here in a beautiful historical cities, and we would like to give everyone the opportunity to live in such beautiful environments and to make our territory grow from the artistic and cultural point of view as well. So I would like to thank everyone committed for our strategy to have the most important outputs on our areas by inviting you that also our centers, our research centers, the universities, development centers might exchange the best practices of our areas. In this way, I believe that we'll be successful in our commitment. I would like to thank you. Thank you.
Grazie mille Assessore Bisesti per queste parole. Noi come Action Group Leader sentiamo veramente una volontà della Presidenza italiana di far avanzare EUSALP.
Thank you. We really feel the will of the Italian Presidency to act, and we really thank you.
And this is very helpful for us also as Action Group Leaders, and for this I would like to thank you. You will stay also with us for the panel that we have at the end of this day, and this leads me to a very technical remark. You will all have remarked by now that we are speaking some part in English, some part in Italian. You have the translation here in the room, but for those who are connected online, you have also the possibility to change the channels according to what you want. And now for the participants who are online and who are connected by Zoom, you have also the possibility to ask questions using the chat tool. Please use this opportunity. This is really for the online participants. Use the opportunity afterwards now for the 3 keynote speeches, or also for the panel afterwards to use this chat function, because I would really like to interact also with you who are now connected online. Now, as you know, we have a little bit delay on the program, but we will keep to the order that we have fixed. So we will now have, first of all, a keynote speech, and this is connected online, and I hope that everything works. With DG Connect, it would be a pity if we could not connect with DG Connect. We are talking about digitalization, and we have, now I hope I pronounce it right, please forgive me, Gerasimos Sofianatos, more or less. Okay, thank you. Who is Deputy Head of Unit at DG Connect at the Directorate for dealing with connectivity and investments in high-speed capacity networks. He's joining us from Brussels, I suppose. Okay, the floor is yours for a keynote speech on the topic of the potentials of digitalization to strengthen the cooperation between urban and rural areas from the perspective of the European Commission. Please, Mr. Gerasimov.
Hello, thank you very much for the floor, Chair. First of all, I would like, I have a slight problem with the sound because I have a repetition. Maybe this will be muted the sound from the room so that I cannot hear but I don't hear my voice when I'm speaking, because it's a bit, anyways.
We can hear you very well. That's the most important.
Yes, but the problem is that I'm hearing my voice once I speak, and this is a bit difficult. But maybe I will just reduce my sound, and this would solve it like this.
We checked it also with the technical stuff. Okay.
Okay, good. So I would like to thank you very much for inviting DigiConnect in this conference. I'm here replacing my head of unit, Franco Accordino, who could not make it at the last moment. I'm unfortunately unhappy that I could not make it to be there live with you and be with you in Trieste, but I will try to do my best to convey to you certain messages, certain political messages, high-level messages about the importance of digitalization for strengthening cooperation between rural and urban areas. And I'm also available after the presentation to answer to your questions. I understand that I have 20 minutes in front of me at my disposal to make my presentation, so I will try not to exceed the time that is given to me. Let me see if I can move my presentation to the next slide. Yes. So connectivity is at the center of the EU policy agenda, not today, not only after the COVID crisis, which was referred to by all previous speakers, but also before. President von der Leyen has put connectivity in the center of this college and of this commission, with the twin transition, the twin digital and green transition. But of course, the Commission and the EU had to step up another gear after the COVID crisis happened, and make sure that our policies are as ambitious as required to address the challenges that were posed by the COVID crisis. The Commission, after the crisis, was quick to propose the Next Generation EU and the Recovery and Resilience Facility funding to support connectivity in investments in Europe. 20% of the investments of connectivity investments in the Next Generation EU in the RRF should be devoted to digital, and I will give you afterwards a bit the state of play of where we are with this objective. Connectivity is also important because it underpins all other elements and all other strategies, like the cloud and data space, like the digital identity, like digital sovereignty. Without connectivity, there is nothing that can work in digital services and in the provision of digital services all around us. So the digital single market is based on the existence of connectivity. In her last State of the Union speech, the President said that we will invest in fiber and 5G in an unprecedented manner. And this is what we are doing. And to put this in place, last year, the Commission proposed a vision for the digital transformation of Europe by 2030. This is the European way to the digital decade. It's a vision for innovative businesses and empowered citizens in a human-centered and sustainable digital society. As you see in my slide, the digital decade is based on 4 cardinal points: a digital skilled population and highly skilled digital professionals. I will not say much on this because there is another presentation dedicated on digital skills, and a secure, performant and sustainable digital infrastructure, including connectivity, but also semiconductors, chips, which are very in the vogue and very much the subject of discussion lately. Data, edge and cloud, computing, but also digitalization of the public administration. And this is in particular important for rural areas and for bridging and cooperation between rural and urban areas with key public services, e-health, digital identity, and digitalization of businesses. In all those four cardinal points, the digital decade proposes objectives, proposes targets, and proposes a governance structure to measure the progress of member states in their path to the achievement of those targets. Before I go to the digital infrastructure targets, which are mainly, which are more relevant for my presentation, I would like to mention in particular the targets which are relevant for digital public services. 100% of key public services should be online, something very important for citizens which do not live close to the urban centers. 100% of medical records should be available online, and 80% of citizens should be able to use digital ID. All these are targets which, if achieved, when achieved, they will improve the lives of the citizens, of EU citizens, wherever they are. The same applies for the targets which are relevant for digital businesses. 75% of EU companies to use cloud, artificial intelligence, and big data, and unicorns, double the number of unicorns that we have in the EU, and more than 90% of the SMEs to reach at least a basic level of digital intensity. Now, connectivity is one of the key enablers for all other services, as I said. When at the time of the digital, when we were preparing the digital compass, the public consultation underpinning this work, asked the question: what are the most important elements for accelerating the digital transition? It is without, let's say, question and without surprise that connectivity was the first of it. Digital skills was a very close second. Now, of course, connectivity in rural areas is not, let's say, at the level of our ambition. Our ambition is to have complete coverage of all areas, of all populated areas with gigabit networks, and all populated areas with 5G. This is the main 2030 targets for infrastructure, as you see here. Gigabit for everyone, 5G in all populated areas. And of course, with regards to other digital infrastructures, to double the production of semiconductors, of chips, which are important for everything, from cars to smart devices and everything in our production. Now, of course, our long-term vision is very ambitious, but the reality, the starting point where we are today, we are quite far behind. Only 33.3% of rural households have access to fiber to the point, comparing to 49.1% for total coverage. So we are a little more, we are exactly at 1/3 of rural households connected with fiber to the premises, whereas it's almost 50% if you count also the urban areas. With regard to next generation access coverage, which means networks which provide speeds of more than 30 Mbps, 67% are covered in the rural areas, whereas if we take into account the entire population, 89.5% are covered. So there is a gap, a coverage gap that we need to cover until 2030, when we want to achieve a 100% gigabit coverage and coverage of 5G. Back in 2017, we did some studies, and the European Investment Bank calculated the investment gap that needs to be filled in to achieve those the 2025 gigabit society objectives. They were calculated at 65 billion per year, of which only 1/3 is supposed to be covered by the private sector, which means that 2/3, 42 billion of these 65 billion need to be covered with some kind of public subsidy. So, of course, this is not money that we can afford to invest, like paying 42 billion euro to finance those networks. And this is why we need to intervene in any areas, and we have a plan to intervene in different areas so as to reduce the need for public subsidy and to ensure with different ways that the targets are achieved. Our approach is deployed. Our strategy is deployed in four different actions. First of all, put in place smart regulatory approaches. Second, reduce the cost of deploying very high-speed networks. Of course, third, support with public funds the deployment of infrastructure. And also, very important, share knowledge on how to implement these investments through different networks, such as the network of national and regional broadband competence offices. I will go through each one of them to explain to you a bit, give you a bit of the background. As regards smart regulation, in 2018, we have completed a process of 2.5 years for revamping the major telecommunications legislation in the EU. The new European Electronic Communications Code was supposed to be transposed by the member states at the end of 2020. There is quite a significant delay there was a significant delay for many member states. Now the situation is a bit better. Those member states who are still late have been referred to the Court of Justice a few weeks ago. Now, the code introduces measures which have the potential of incentivizing investment in very high capacity networks, and does this by promoting a more favorable treatment of business models such as co-investment and wholesale-only models. This is a signal that it sends to potential investors that investment in very high-capacity networks will be regulated less, let's say, aggressively, but and will ensure that there are appropriate returns for investment, and that the investment risk will be taken into account. The higher the investment risk, when, for instance, investment happens in wide areas or in areas where there is market failure, the less likely there is that there will be regulation, or the regulation that will be imposed will be such as to ensure that there is appropriate return for the investment. And another point, very important, another intervention from the European Electronic Communications Code, and this in view of enhancing the deployment of 5G networks, was to ensure the predictability of spectrum assignment procedures. There have been a number of actions in this area, but most importantly, the minimum 20-year license predictability, investment predictability for the duration of spectrum rights was one of the most important issues and most important actions. All this now is in the past, but for the future, the work has not finished as regards incentivizing deployment through regulation, and our colleagues are at the moment in the process of updating their very high capacity network recommendation, which intends also have the same objective to promote pro-investment and pro-competition approaches in access regulation, give guidance as regards investment, how to incentivize investments in fiber through risk premium, and give guidance about the least intrusive regulatory approaches, and to help migration from copper to fiber. Now, the second area where we intervene aims to accelerate investment and deployment of networks. And how do we go about it? First of all, last year we adopted, with the member state, developed and adopted the toolbox of best practices to promote connectivity. Based on the previous cost reduction directive, the Directive 2014, Member states have entered into a cooperative process where they developed best practices to address problems that hinder network deployment. Those best practices have been identified, and member states submitted roadmaps, which are concrete timetables with actions selecting which best practices they would like to incorporate into their national legislation and implement. The process was very successful. It's a cooperative process, but it still presents a number of challenges. Like, for instance, it is difficult for member states to get their buy-in as regards the measures, and there is quite a resistance as regards spectrum harmonization and difficulty in this area. At the same time, we are reflecting, and we are now in the process of reviewing the Broadband Cost Reduction Directive, which dates back from 2014, so was negotiated in 2013. And the idea is here to adopt a new proposal at the end of Q2 2022 or beginning of Q3 2022, with intervention to go one step further and focus on 5G and fiber, and expand the scope of access to physical infrastructure, enhance the availability of information in single information points, accelerate permit granting procedures, and also include measures for the greening of electronic communications networks. Now, as I said, the third area where we intervene has to do with financing. And financing and funding, there is a lot, and there has been a lot, in particular after the COVID crisis. One of the most important, let's say, sources of financing is the Recovery and the Resilience Facility, which is central to the Next Generation EU. And it provides that 26% of, which means euro 117 billion will be devoted to digital, of which 13 billion on connectivity. To do what? To invest in cross-border projects such as on microelectronics, cloud, 5G corridors, very high capacity submarine cables. I think and we are satisfied that the response from the member states has been very responsive, and they have been very positive in dedicating funds for connectivity, and in particular as regards 5G. There are 11 plans with 5G investments, 5 more specifically on 5G corridors. I will come back to the corridors a bit later in my presentation. 5 plans include measures with fiber in areas, including rural zones, and 5 plans target municipalities, business parks, and even public safety networks.
Atos, sorry to interrupt you, but the time is already over.
No, it's not over. It's 15. I only speak for 13 minutes.
No, it's 20 minutes already over with the introduction. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you please consider now speaking about 1 or 2 slides maximum? Sorry.
Excuse me, I started speaking at 48, so it's not finished my time.
45. Sorry, I want to discuss this. Could you please fix on 1 or 2 slides now? Sorry.
As regards the Connecting Europe facility, which is the main, let's say, financing element that we have, the project that we have, it includes actions supporting 5G infrastructure deployments, and in particular 5G corridors along transport paths and 5G for smart communities. It also includes a second pillar, which is actions supporting pan-European backbone infrastructures with connectivity for digital global gateways. I think most important for rural deployment is the part on the 5G infrastructure deployments, corridors, and socioeconomic drivers. I will skip these slides about 5G policy, and I will go more specifically on the 5G corridors, because I think this is an area where there are at least 3 corridors that are passing: the Scandinavian Mediterranean corridor, the Rhine-Alpine corridor, and the Mediterranean corridor. And this is very important to note that in the CEF, there is 5.4, that the investment required is 5.4 billion, and that there is 1 billion available in the CEF for 5G corridors, and in particular for the cross-border part of the 5G corridors. This is important for your region, and we would very much welcome projects from regions which are border regions to support the cross-border parts of the corridors. Now, of course, 5G. What is important for 5G is continuity. So from the corridors to the communities, there should be no gap in the connectivity. And this is how, from major transport paths, we go to the urban areas and to the rural areas. Everything needs to be covered by 5G so that smart logistics, smart agriculture, smart transport, smart energy could work. And CEF has also money for 80 million euro until 2023 for 5G communities. What we say 5G communities are local authorities, hospitals, schools, public safety authorities, which could develop use cases, 5G use cases, which could serve as a blueprint, and then we could maximize them and finance them with other resources. So we have already started the first call, closed in 20 April, and a second call on CEF is scheduled for the end of the year. We are inviting, of course, all local authorities, all smart communities to apply for funding under the CEF. And we think that regions, macro regions like yours, would be in a particularly well placed to play this dual, let's say, this dual advantage of 5G corridors coexisting with local smart communities and let's say maximizing the impact of the infrastructure investment. There are synergies with other programs. The idea is exactly that the blueprints that will be developed thanks to CEF will be then maximized and disseminated all over Europe and financed through the RRF and national programs. That's why we have earmarked also significant resources for coordination and support to be able to scale up those blueprints and bring them to other communities. Very quickly to say that CEF also finances backbone connectivity, and this is not only cloud and to connect cloud and high-performance computing infrastructures, but also submarine cables and quantum communication infrastructures. There is a continuation of the Wi-Fi for EU. We will continue investing and financing the Wi-Fi for EU. We are at the moment with the first CEF call at 8,802 local communities awarded vouchers, and more than 6,300 municipalities have completed, about 8,165 installations, and there will be another call and continuation of this scheme through the CEF. These are the support actions that I was mentioning in the beginning about the smart communities, but also the broadband competence offices, which can help local communities build their cases and their files to be able to receive support for this kind of infrastructure. I went a bit fast, apologies, I was asked to, but this finishes my intervention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this overview. I hope that you could hear the applause that was in the room. It was the merit for you. Thank you for being precise and showing us also that there is support for digital infrastructures for DG Connect. There's a lot of money available. There's a lot of possibilities available. But I think now it's up to us in the Alpine area to use these opportunities that are given there. We can certainly discuss in the afternoon on the panels some aspects. The aspect of 5G, we will more focus on it more tomorrow in the technological aspect, but if you want to react, we can also do it today. I don't know, Mr. Bisesti, how is your opinion on the case? We are strongly convinced that 5G is really helping mountain areas because it's wireless. Okay, I have to speed up a little bit because I know that the next speaker, or Mrs. Speaker, is a little bit short on time. Mrs. Geleng, Manuela Geleng from DG Employment is on the screen. Welcome. Can you hear us?
Very well. Grazie.
Yeah, now it works, yes. We can also hear you. You're coming from DG Employment. You work as a Deputy Director General at DG Employment, particularly on jobs, skills, and social policies. This is something that we mentioned before when talking about AG3, that we have also to think about digital skills. And this has a lot to do with your work. And now I'm very eager to listen to you, what DG Employment has to give us on the opportunities to strengthen digital skills and the competencies, especially in rural areas. Ms. Geleng, the floor is yours.
Grazie mille per questo invito a partecipare.
So thank you very much for inviting me to participate in these. I'm extremely happy to be here because these are provinces, regions that I'm particularly familiar and sensitive to, especially because I was born in Alto Adige Süd Tirol. I studied in Trieste and in Austria, and therefore these are regions that I know very, very well, even though in the last few years I wasn't able to reach them very often.
Allora, io mi soffermerò soprattutto.
I'm focusing on the digital skills and competencies, since my colleagues of the EU Commission explained everything about technologies, infrastructures, digital technologies and infrastructures. So why digital skills are so important? They are extremely important for our everyday life. When we go to the bank, we can access our bank account from our smartphone, for example. For health services or public services of any kind, or simply to plan our next travel. However, digital skills are essential in the labor market. Nowadays, almost 90% of workplaces require some kind of digital skill. However, if we analyze the digital skills of the adult population in Europe, 56% of the adult population in Europe has only basic digital skills, and 15% has no digital skill at all. So these two graphs at the bottom simply show that since 2015, the growth of digital skills was 1% per year, whereas to reach the objectives, the targets for 2030, growth should be much higher. The title of this slide, Europe for the Digital Age, which is the priority, one of the 6 priorities of the von der Leyen Commission. My colleague already explained the digital competence issue, so I'm going to focus on other 2 initiatives, European initiatives. The Agenda for European skills that focus mainly on green skills and digital skills, especially for the adult population, workers, and the digital action plan for education, so how to reform the education system to promote connectivity and higher digital skills training for the students. At European level, there's not only the political framework to be taken into account, but also, as repeated, many investments to this regard. What is important are also the targets we have. I said that only 56% of the population between the 16 and 74 years old has basic digital skills. By 2030, we should reach 80%. And by 2030, we would like 20 million specialized professionals in communication technologies. These are very ambitious targets that are required to have a competitive economy in Europe. Also more cohesion at social level. I would like to introduce a number of initiatives in the framework of the Agenda for Digital Skills that we adopted and are of interest for the regions, and we would like to increase the involvement of regions in these initiatives. One of these initiatives is Pact for Skills that involves social sector, businesses, local authorities, public authorities, local, regional, and national authorities, and training institutions. This is a pact for skills, which means uniting forces in order at European level for our workforce to upskill and reskill itself and change even, for example, the working sector. Green transition will imply also changes in the workplace, in the job profiles. This is why we launched this Pact for Skills and I'm going to be back to this slide, which is expressed through some partnerships, skills partnership in different economic sectors. At the moment, we have one partnership in the automotive sector, one in the tourism sector, one in the renovation wave, the renovation of our buildings to make them greener, in textile, in the microelectronics, and in the agri-food sector. These are examples of important partnerships where businesses, public authorities, and trainers work together to promote training of workers. Why are these pacts important? Because they are transversal. They are from the small and medium enterprises to the larger industries. But the Pact for Skills might include a larger number of stakeholders in many member countries, but all may also be limited only to one region. These slides aims to explain from the point of view of regions, of provinces, a partnership for skills. You might be a member of one of these partnerships. We launched at European level, for example, the Automotive Partnership for the training of 5% of the European workforce in the automotive sector in the next few years, or you as regions, by mobilizing the local stakeholders, you might create your own partnership, regional partnership, to upskill the workers, the local workers. So these are the two working sectors. This is a political initiatives we are working on, and we have been quite successful. We have 10 large partnerships at European levels with the involvement of the industry sector, the social stakeholders, and public authorities. But we also have 600 businesses that participated in the Pact for Skills, and we also have regions at the forefront in digitalization. For example, Silicon Saxony, and within the large partnership for microelectronics, Silicon Saxony launched this regional dimension, say, for the reskill, or a similar partnership in the automotive sector. We also have other regions in France or Spain implementing regional partnership. I hope your region will soon take part in one of these large partnerships or create an independent regional partnership. I know that many of your provinces or regions are already included in projects in the digital sector. For example, the European Social Fund project, enhancing skills, or in Linz, or the one in Bolzano. These are important initiatives. And the funds that were also mentioned by my colleagues, the European Social Funds, in the next 7 years, from 2021 to 2027, contributes with over 100 billion at European level, and one of the main targets are skills. So it is up to the member countries, but also to the regions to upskill their workers, but also next generation in EU, and also the Recovery and Resilience Facility give importance to the upskilling and reskilling, and also the regional fund or the rural development fund are relevant for promoting the upskilling. If we look at our competitors, Korea, Japan, United States, they all have higher rates of participation in upskill programs. That's why our targets are so ambitious. In conclusion, I would like to this is a slide on rural issues that were already mentioned by my colleagues. Political ambitions are clear-cut. The importance of skills for innovation, for competitiveness at European level, but also for cohesion, social cohesion. We have initiatives and a political framework that is very clear, and much more funds at our disposal, an unprecedented amount of funds to this regard. What is necessary now is your capacity, your ability to exploit, say, to use these resources, especially in digitalization. My colleagues are at your disposal in order to help you for any assistance should you be interested to become a member of the Pact for Skills, or should you be interested in the development of specific project at regional level. Thank you for your attention.
Grazie mille, signora Geleng.
Thank you, Ms. Geleng. I hope you had the applause, and thank you for respecting also the time.
Some questions from the audience. There weren't any, so I ask once again also the audience who is connected online, if you have questions, you can use the chat function in the tool. Are there questions here from the room? Now, for instance, for Madam Geleng. Because, now we need a microphone.
Io volevo chiedere per quanto riguarda la...
My question is, as for the digital literacy of our adult population, can we promote it at a in parallel with the information technology literacy? Because there are adult people that have no literacy at all, also in reading or writing, and I believe this might be connected also to information literacy, information technology literacy. For example, when they need to apply to a project or a fund, this is an important issue. The idea of writing complex sentences and reason of Ms. Geleng, did you hear the question? Could you please literacy of adult people. I'm referring to the actual literacy, reading and writing literacy, but also digital literacy. Are these two parallel, or are they to be treated separately? From the point of view of fundings, they can go hand in hand. In fact, very often the two elements go hand in hand. There might be a need to learn some more basic skills, but also some digital skills. And my personal question is, if a municipality wants to participate in the Pact for Skills, what shall this municipality do? Shall they ask to action group number 3? Can they address to you? So the digital partnership is in progress. So I can advise that EUSALP is interested and address you to the people creating this partnership. You can send me your questions, your anything, and then I can pass them on to my colleagues for we also have a technical assistance service. I can address you to for the more practical aspects. So we would like to promote this aspect together with Action Group 3 and 5. So next speaker, thank you, Ms. Geleng.
To a level lower, to the level of municipalities, the one which I called before. And I see Sarina Pfründer, who is connected. Hello, Sarina.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Okay, the connection works. I see you, and you can hear us well. Okay. Perfect, thank you. Sarina Pfründer is mayor of the municipality of Sulzfeld in Baden-Württemberg. So you may not know that Baden-Württemberg is also a member of EUSALP, so we are very happy to have you here on board, Ms. Pfründer. And we agreed that we now have a little chat, the two of us. So really to be a little bit more interactive. You, as the mayor of the municipality, you're of course very in close contact with your population. And my first question to you would be, did you introduce recently any new digital services in your municipality? And if yes, which one?
Yes, hello, Mr. Egger, dear sir, madam. Greetings from France, actually. I'm here also in a conference with German and French persons, and now I have a room for myself to have the conference together with you. So we introduced a lot of digital services in the last 2 years, especially to discuss with our citizens, young and old persons, about our work in our city. We are a small city of 5,000 citizens, and so we have a lot of digital services in the last years. For example, with young persons from school, with very old persons which are not used to make digital services, but they learn to it. And also with normal citizens, we have a lot of discussion, and we have, for example, also meetings with our partnership cities in France and in Poland, and did a lot of digital meetings in the last 2 years.
So really you're on the way of digitalization, you're using the potentials. I have heard from your first answer that in the last 2 years something happened. Was really the COVID-19 crisis in that sense a trigger for more digital services in your municipality?
Yes, it's true. Before we had no digital conferences, really no. But the COVID situation was a trigger for it. We started, and now we do a lot of things digital, like today.
Like today, connected from France. So digitalization works. We have learned a lot about it. So what are your experiences now in your function as a mayor? Because you're doing all this also for the population. Does the population really well receive those new digital services?
Yes, it took a short time to deal with the situation, but it went very fast. And I think for the citizens it's uncomplicated. Of course, sometimes there are technical problems, but I think it's really easy to use it. We don't have routes to go anywhere for the meeting. We don't have entertainment expenses. We don't need a city hall or a room for a meeting. So, and we also reach a new target group, especially young persons in the generation of 30 or 40 years, which have small children in their house. They normally do not appear in a meeting in a city hall, but they could take part from their house, and it was very easy for them to take part in our meetings. And of course, it is very easy to have big meetings. For example, one wine tasting. We are a wine region, so we had about 400 participants in a wine tasting with discussion about wine, or in a workshop about photovoltaic, about 100 persons. So it's really easy to organize. And the citizens liked those meetings.
And as you said, it's even an opportunity to reach new target groups like the young people. So that's very interesting also for you. What's the impulse for doing something on digitalization? Always coming from the municipality? Or was it even the inverse side, that even the population asked for more services?
So in my city, and also in the area, it was from the municipality. So I like working digital, so for me it was no problem, and I had a lot of ideas to do together. I think it was enough for our citizens.
Okay. So I think that's also some experience that we did, for instance, through our Smart Village project. We need some trigger persons, key persons who are thriving for the process. In that case, it was the municipality. But now, for you as a municipality, it's also the other side. You have also people who are digitally not skilled, who may not even have access. So how do you deal with those persons?
One time we had a workshop for seniors, from teenagers, how to use a smartphone, for example. And if anybody don't have a computer or smartphone, he can come to our city hall and use our public computers there. So it's no time problem. And
will this person also be assisted then in this moment when he comes or she comes to your office? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're closing the gap once again from the side of the municipality. That's very good. But nevertheless, a critical question also to digitalization, because we also always think digitalization can replace everything. But is it really true? Can digitalization really replace all physical contacts, also with your population? Or do you lose, at the end, the contact to the population, do not feel the population anymore? Is there not a risk also there?
Yes, I think we need both. We need the exchange digital and also in person. So now, after Corona, after COVID, we continue with both. We make one meeting digital and the next meeting person. So I think it's the best. It's really necessary to have a coffee together and to have some small talk at a table, a real table. So I think it's necessary to have both.
Yeah, I'm personally also convinced about that. We see it also in conferences, etc. It's good to exchange via digital connections, etc. But you lose all the informal contacts. And I think for you as a mayor, it's the same thing. I know about other municipalities who have started organizing a coffee with the mayor or something like that, just to get in contact with the population. Now, Ms. Pfründer, we are here in an international conference. We have ministers from the regional level. We have even representatives from the European level. If it were Christmas, what would be your wish list as a mayor to those levels?
Actually, in the south of Germany, I'm happy. I don't have big wishes for Christmas. But now we can choose two possibilities. We have private internet, for example, from the telecom in Germany, and we also can use money from the state. But maybe it will be stopped because of Corona, of COVID crisis, and of Ukraine. It will be stopped. Actually, it's a good situation. Actually, I'm happy. I hope it will be the same situation in the next years.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you would like to give us as a message today? No?
Thank you. No.
Thank you very much. Short question to the audience here in the room. Are there questions from your side to Ms. Pfründer? That is not the case. No online, I think. Okay, thank you. Goodbye. Thank you for joining us from France. Thank you very much. So now we are approaching the first coffee break. But before we are doing this, we would like to see what's going outside. So I don't know if you can have the connection to Wolfgang and his colleagues outside to have a quick feedback on the roadshow, because then during the coffee break, of course, you have also the opportunity to go outside to visit this roadshow and to get some information about EUSALP in general. And I, of course, hope so that there may be some people passing outside and that we can also get into connection with them. I'm looking at the screen, which just give us 2 seconds. Yeah, we're connected outside. Okay, Wolfgang is on the phone, Pierre Simon as well.
They are speaking with you. Me? Yes.
Hello, Wolfgang.
Hi, Thomas.
What is going on outside? Are there many people?
Outside, we are preparing to play the Kahoot, and everybody's putting in his nickname, and we wait for the first question.
We will come outside and help you. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So what
Join
happened?
us.
What happened until now? Did you have a lot of people crossing?
We had several people asking what the EUSALP is like, what they are doing. Several people also were very fond of the pens they got, but in reality, it was quiet, I would say.
Okay. So I think we will help you now. We will have our coffee break and join you outside also to
join us outside, please. Join us.
Okay. Thank you, Wolfgang.
Thank you. Bye.
Outside. So
okay. See you.
We will now have a panel discussion, which is also a mixed panel discussion, because we will have two people which are connected externally. It's on the one side Frank Bogovic, who is from Slovenia. He's a member of the European Parliament and co-chair of the Intergroup on Smart Villages. We will have a video message by him, and he's also connected online, so we have a possibility to interact with him. And we have also online Luciano Caveri, the Minister of the Valle d'Aosta, also Assessore of the Autonomous Region of Valle d'Aosta, who will... he's on the video. We can see you. Perfect. Welcome. And we have here in presence Mirko Besti, who you already have heard this afternoon. We have new now on board Lena Lacker.
Welcome.
Lena Lacker is maybe familiar to some of you because she already participated
last year, yes.
Yeah, exactly, to the first Digital Alps conference. She is a representative of the Youth Parliament of the Alpine Convention.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us. And we have Tadej Jezernik.
Correctly.
Slovenian is not a language I know. One of the few. So he's a representative of the Youth Council of EUSALP, which was constituted this year, I think.
Last year in July.
Year. Yeah, okay. And we are eager to hear what you have discussed, because you had already a workshop this morning,
yes,
where you discussed several topics on digitalization, and we will be able to react then on that. But first of all, I would like to start with our Italian presidency representative, with Mirko Bisesti. And we have been talking now a lot about digitalization in the Alpine area. And we as Action Group 5, for instance, we have said our leitmotif, our motto, is to say we want to turn the Alps to the forerunners of digitalization in Europe. And of course, the question for us is, are we on the right way? Where do you feel that we are with digitalization in the Alpine area? You and Sebastiano Callari, have both stressed the importance of digitalization. Do you feel that we are at a good moment? Do we have the good momentum? Are there even maybe also good examples from your territory?
Sì, buongiorno. Sì, buongiorno. Sì, funziona.
Thank you for your question. I would like to thank our representatives of the Youth Council and the Youth Parliament, because I believe that their participation here is of paramount importance, with their ideas and their contributions of the work they carried out over these last few months and this morning as well. Your question focuses on the fact if we are in the right direction, if we are working enough and appropriately. I believe that is in the last years, and also in the presentation of the EU Commission, which is betting on digitalization so much. I believe it is important as Alpine regions, as that large area that goes from Nice to Slovenia, where we are today in Trieste, and so that the Alpine area can be also in this field for an area of experimentation for so long. We had in this area the Center of Excellence for the Development of Technologies, but in order for all the prerequisites being in place for the youth generation to remain in our area, to choose our area as an area to live in and to develop their ideas is extremely important, and it is a commitment for all the regions of the Alpine space, and also as regards the new opportunities, because the focus of the European Commission as the opportunity to wanting to welcome those opportunities of investment for digital infrastructures, digital skills. Also, in the speech of the DG Employment representative, I believe these go hand in hand in the building connectivity at European level. We underlined the necessity for digital infrastructures together with the digital skills of our citizens. A lot has been done up to now, and thanks also to the shock and the horrible experience we had in the last 2 years with the pandemics, we understood the importance of a digital network which is stable, a network of infrastructures and skills, so that work is guaranteed also in more remote areas. And this is important also for the development, also, for example, as regards the health sector, telemedicine. There are other areas connected to the development of the digital media that are extremely important. And both representatives of DG Connect and DG Employment underlined the gap we have as against the main world players. The difference can be made by the context, especially in this regards, the rate, the amount we invest in research and development as against those other countries of our competitors. When we compare the investments of the world main player in technology as against what our investments are in these sectors, I'm not referring personally in my region, which is quite an example on the national context, but if we look at the investments of the Italian government on research and development, certainly it is much lower than what Japan or US do. We should, if we could mark your area from 1 to 6, with 6 the highest mark and 1 the lowest one, what mark would you give? I would like to give 4 because there's still some work to be done. This is an area that has worked a lot in this to this regard, and however there are further potentials to reach our targets that Europe and EUSALP itself, representing 80 million of the Alpine arc and of regions that are extremely productive. We have important centers at industrial level, technological level in our area, and so the further step forward is not a mere comparison with the southern part of Europe, of the northern part of Europe, but also with those the stakeholders outside Europe that we should set as an example as for technological and digital development, since this is the topic of our convention. and therefore also the effects of the social and economic development of our areas.
A lot to be done, and now we would like to move. You have mentioned Europe. We would like to move to Frank Bogovic, and we have a video message prepared from his side, where he will tell us how he feels on which way we are about digitalization. So can we please have the video prepared by Frank Bogovic?
Good afternoon to all participants of EUSALP digital conference. Unfortunately, I cannot be in my neighborhood in Trieste. I'm from Slovenia because we have plenary session in Strasbourg, and unfortunately this afternoon I must move back to Brussels, so I will follow the conference from the car. If it will be necessary, I will answer on question if there will be any question, but allow me to say a few introductory remarks for today's conference. In the European Union, green, digital and resilient are three basic topics we speak about after COVID crisis. All these priorities are also included in multi-annual financial framework 21-27 and especially in Resilient and Recovery Fund. In my point of view, I am Agri and Regi member, and I follow the topic of smart villages since 2017. COVID crisis accelerated understanding of need of digitalization in rural areas. And we recognized how important it is that we have good connectivity, either mobile or optic fibers or any else, but it's essential that in such a crisis we have good connectivity. So connectivity is underlined in all these strategies, all strategic documents of European Union for next year, and I'm sure that it will be a lot of money put in this infrastructure. What is also important for rural areas is that people stay in rural areas, that rural areas are populated, and if we want that people will stay, especially young people, we need good infrastructure on one side, and we need good opportunities for jobs. And in COVID crisis, we recognized also how important it is that rural areas and cities are connected, that the rural and cities areas cooperate, and that people who live in cities have opportunity to enjoy in rural areas, and rural areas that you can offer tourism, food or something else what can be very useful to have a job in rural areas. So this in Alpine macro region, this is very good. We have very good connection and connectivity between cities and rural areas. And here again we need digitalization. We need solutions for tourism. We need solutions also for mobility, what is also an essential problem in rural areas. There are many opportunities also in energy sector. We speak about renewable energy. We speak about other solutions where you need digital offers to connect solutions and put it as opportunity for business. What is also very important is healthcare and care for elderly people, and there we often find the solutions which help to ensure better conditions for elderly people in rural areas. Mobility is a special topic where we have a lot of good opportunities and many new platforms for mobility. Agriculture, especially the offer through platforms or precision farming are a new other solutions. So I'm sure that we will finance many of these solutions also through different funds, common agriculture policy, cohesion policy, leader scheme, other opportunities, and it's depends a lot on strategy on national level. So I wish you a very fruitful conference, and if there will be any question, I will be very happy to answer. Thank you very much, and bye.
Thank you very much, Frank. We have tried the connection before. He was connected. I hope that the connection will stay until the end of the podium so that we can have some reactions. I already saw some positive reactions from people saying, oh yes, that's right, we should talk about that. Let's first go to another virtually connected person, which is Luciano Caveri. Luciano Caveri, Assessore Valle d'Aosta and a long-time fighter for mountain areas in Europe. You were also one-time member of the Association of Elected Mountain Representatives, the IM, which unfortunately does not exist anymore, but there we had many contacts because I was a member of the board of directors of Euromontana. So you with your long history on mountain development, how do you see the actual state of digitalization? What is the importance of digitalization today? And maybe a special question for you also. I know that your region is also very active on the topic of smart villages. What does this approach also mean to you as a mountain representative? Luciano.
Beh, anzitutto buongiorno a tutti e sono lietissimo di essere con voi.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I would like to make a short introduction because of my long history in this field. When 20 years ago we started thinking about the Alpine Euro region, we started speaking about it because we were not very well known at European level. We were lacking solidarity among our members. Today we do have this solidarity. We need more political momentum to EUSALP. And as regards digitalization, our region is an extreme region, is a high mountain region. Altitude is 2,200 meters on an average. We have the 4 main mountains in the Alps, Cervino, Monte Rosa, Monte Bianco, Gran Paradiso, and then we have important valleys, rich valleys as regards ski resorts and tourism, and poorer one, which have a beautiful natural landscape but are depopulated, and I believe this is common to other areas too. We are facing a demographic crisis which is really, really dramatic. First we had depopulation and now we have a very low birth rate, and this is a dramatic element. This is therefore it is as we did today, we need to stress the importance of digitalization. Thanks to EU funds, we worked successfully. Today, all the 74 municipalities of Valle d'Aosta have the optic fiber. In some cases, it needs to be extended to the smaller villages, but we're working on that. Today, the topic of connectivity is pivotal. What is important is also giving contents to this presence. Once we spoke about the digital gap, digital divide. Today we do have the cultural divide. That is not all generations are able to exploit the potentials of the internet, and even the young people that are very often digital natives use very minimal at very minimal level the digital potentials they have. So we need to work also, and we do it also thanks to the European Social Fund, in favor of the young generations, and we are doing it in schools, but also for the elderly that shall not be isolated. Very often in Italy we need this speed, which is a key electronic key for bureaucratic issues. In many cases, the elderly need the assistance of their children, their grandchildren, to do that. I believe that smart villages are a huge potential, not only for the inhabitants of the alpine area, but also for the population that to counterbalance the demographic collapse we need to bring back to the mountain. Thank you.
Us also this bigger context. Why are we speaking about digitalization? It's finally to keep people in our mountain areas and give them new opportunities. And if we are talking about opportunities, it's for you. It's for the young generation. And this is why we chose also this format today, that at the morning you had a workshop, and now we will hear from you what you discussed. Maybe, Lena, to start with you, what was the topic of this morning? What did you do?
So first of all, thank you for having us at that workshop. We talked about digitalization in the Alpine region, and the subtopics were center and periphery, education, production, and participation. And we were able to talk in smaller groups and then exchange our ideas about the different topics. There were different ideas. It was really interesting to see that so many young people have so many different opinions about the same topics, even though we all live in the same region. But we found out that problems have no borders, so we all kind of have the same problems and we see the same problems, but we have different solutions. And today is going to talk about some of the problems we found this morning.
I think you could be an ambassador for EUSALP. We have different feelings in different regions, but we are striving for common solutions across the borders. That's what EUSALP is. Yeah. Thank you very much, Lena, who is joining us from Innsbruck. Yes. And now we have Tadej, who's coming from Slovenia, and he will talk about the problems you identified actually this morning.
Yes, thank you very much for invitation. First, I have to say that I'm always really happy when I see amazing young people gathering somewhere and discussing about some solutions and some problems that we have around us. And this morning was very productive, and I saw so many young people gathering there, and they were so actively involved in the solutions that I was like very surprising there. And as a youth councillor, I would like to say thank you very much for that. When we talk about problems, yes, of course, we identify some of them. The first one is actually that people leave Alps. We already know that reason, more than 10, 20 years, but it seems that nothing has done to stop that. Actually, the problems here is that with lack of infrastructure, which leads in the lack of connectivity, which leads in the lack of mobility. And the last, we have less attractive lives in Alps. And this is the problem. This is the real problem why the Alps, the young people, they are living from there. Of course, there were some other problems like lack of money of local levels. So the money is always problems, but if we want development, the local level, then we won't have nothing. And we're talking about also about social inequality, about in the education and so on, but I think that the main problem here is that young people or people are living Alps, and this is really issues for that. We're also talking about visions and the solutions, and I think that Lena will say more about solutions, right?
Yeah, I'm just going. Thank you. So some of the solutions were, I'm going to start with the education part, because that was the group I was working in. Our ideas were to support people with lower incomes so that everyone has access to the devices and can use them, and education doesn't have anything to do with your income or your parents' income. Another idea was to have virtual classrooms online, like we had during the distance learning time, but for people who live in rural areas who may not be able to come to school all the time because of snow or maybe just like a long journey, so they can just participate at home and still go to school or university. We talked about lifelong learning, so we talked about the gap between old people and young people, and that it is important to make sure that it's not like another gap between rich and poor, for example, so that older people who are not as familiar with the digital world as the digital natives also get education on that. For the periphery part, we talked about the idea that electric cars are a great idea, but the problem is if the electricity still comes from fossil fuels, it's not that of an alternative for everyone. So we have to make sure to find better ways for that. We need more transparency in politics, like open data, so everyone has access to the information and everyone can look up what politicians are doing so they can actually participate and not only just read about it in newspaper, but actually be a part of it and read about it all the time and know what's happening. And we talked about a platform for different regions where they can present themselves and maybe show people that it's a great place to work there and just live there and work online, because that's probably going to be the future, that people are going to work online and don't have to be at the places they actually work, but just participate online and work there. So the Alpine region could be an area where that could happen. Yeah, I think that was most of the things we talked about. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that it was interesting for me because I was summarizing this workshop today, and I have here one sentence, that high internet connection is a new human right. And I don't know if you're talking about this before, but I think that this is, of course, will be discussion in future, maybe in 5-10 years, that internet connection, fast internet connection is a human right.
Because in Germany you're actually talking about that, and they're talking about having that as a human right you can actually go to court for in 2025. So that might be an option for the whole Alpine region, to have that right for everyone.
Thank you very much. You're talking about a human right. I would prefer, but I know it's by intention that you chose this wording. So I leave it, I will not comment it, but just to say from the experience that we have in different countries also the service provision, universal services provision. And I know that in some countries this is very, very low. And in Switzerland, for instance, now to speak about Switzerland because there are no other Swiss people here, we are introducing now the minimum service provision in high-speed internet at 80 megabit per second for every household, every enterprise, all over the country, wherever it is. So it goes into that direction. But I'm sure other countries could follow this idea. I'm sure. Then we do not need to have a human right on it. Thank you very much for this input also. It was also for me now interesting to take note and to try to react with the other speakers here. But first of all, a question which has arisen for me now from your presentation. I had sometimes the feeling that homeschooling, distance learning, etc., was something very helpful during the crisis, but that all children at the end were happy to go back to school now. So now you said that you want to continue on that, or is that really the feeling that you want to continue with distance learning, etc.?
I feel like it's not like to actually continue for everyone, but just to have it as an option for people where like a university is not an option because they live too far away and maybe they can't pay for the rent at the city, so they can just live outside and still participate in university or in school. So it's not mandatory for everyone, but people can decide whether they want to join online or join in person. Because I think with the pandemic we saw that some things are just possible online and you don't actually have to go there, and classes and university and school can still be good and you can still learn things online and you don't actually have to be there. I mean, of course, I'm happy to be back at university and I'm really happy to meet my fellow students there, because I haven't met anyone before because I started during the pandemic, so now it's the first time I'm actually meeting people, so that's really nice. But for some people, it's actually not that easy to come to Innsbruck all the time, because they didn't rent an apartment in Innsbruck, because it's very expensive for students especially, and they just stayed at home, and they have to commute from home to the university, and sometimes it's more than an hour or like 2 hours or something. So that's, and if you have to start at 8 in the morning, that you have to get up really early. So they would prefer to participate online. But there's still some people who live in the city who like to participate in person. So to maybe just have the option to participate online.
And also to increase the chances of participation for those who are far away. Understand in that sense now.
Maybe also have the option to actually record it, so that people who have to work, especially during university, because not every parent can pay for their children to go to university. So a lot of people have to work part-time, so they can work and just look at just study at home and just look at the recordings.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a quick reaction, Mirko Bisesti. You're, if I'm not wrong, also dealing with education. And we have heard that people with lower income should be supported especially. Is this also a topic for you? Is this something that you could think about?
Sì, sono stato anch'io impressionato.
I was impressed, of course, by that solution, but then it was specified that it was only for emergency situations. And I think that's the right answer. It's only for emergency situations, because the school, especially for younger pupils, but even university, may be attended remotely in case of exceptional circumstances, as is the case of the pandemic, which makes it impossible for many students to attend in person. I believe that this could be an option, but regardless of the possibility to attend lessons online, what makes the difference is that schools and universities must be able to have a direct relationships with their pupils, with their students. I think that it implies a certain effort. You have to make an effort to attend the lessons in person. I come from a region, the autonomous province of Trento, and there, every day, we have thousands of students who travel an hour and 15 minutes to come and go back to their homes. They live in the valleys, in the remote valleys of my region. And that's the journey that they make every day to attend lessons in person. There is an effort. It means that you have to wake up earlier. It means that you have to get on a bus or the train. It means that you can share with your fellow students a sense of community. And that sense of community is reinforced through attending the lessons in person. It's not just the contents that you learn during the lessons. It has to do with the context. But over and above that, and I was impressed by that solution, I think that there are very interesting solutions that have been submitted. I really like the reference to the green energy, in the sense that we have to avoid becoming even more dependent on fossil fuels. This is something that new generations are trying to do, to achieve a real change, a real environmental transition, something that we hear so much about, but still requires very solid foundations. We can't just afford to make propaganda on green energy. We have realized over the last few years and few months that the energy prices have increased so much, and we are so much dependent on fossil fuels, that we need a new development. and I'm referring to EUSALP as well. We need this environmental transition, and we need this environmental transition to lay on very strong foundations in terms of green energy, renewable energy. This is a challenge that our young people have correctly understood.
So you have really an open ear with the assessor who confirms that there is need to action on this topic of education and that you are on the right track with your questions and solutions that you have raised. Just to confirm this one. In very short, sorry. Now, thank you for the video, because effectively I would like to ask the same question to both of you, Luciano and Frank. Not the same question about education, but the question about this notion of human right. Do we have to declare the access to high-speed internet in the future as a human right? What do you think, Frank, about this question?
Thanks for all these introductory remarks and other things. What I heard about human rights, I think it's much better this what you did in Switzerland to ensure connectivity. And sometimes it's not enough to say that human rights, but I fully agree, yes, we should ensure high-speed connectivity to everybody in these days. I remember when I was mayor in 2008, I was mayor between 1998 and 2011, and in 2008 we built optic fibers connectivity in hills, and one farmer on the highest farm in the hills said to me, I don't know what we speak about, but my children want this. But with COVID crisis, also he and all other people knows how essential it is to have this connectivity. So I'm sure it's possible to build. We also can declare this as human right. But what I think it's also important that we involve business sector to find together new solutions. For sure, in rural areas, it's necessary to have public policy to build this connectivity because it's not profitable usually. But it's also very important that we, together with business sector, find the solutions for these areas. I work, for example, with Toyota on solutions for mobility, and in my country, in Slovenia, they start just this week, this month, one new platform in rural areas, how to work together to introduce electricity car plus platform to bring connectivity to young people or to older people that they have, because they don't have public traffic. On another side, there are other solutions in e-health. We saw Vodafone has made the solutions for e-health, especially in Greece on islands. And it's possible to combine together with care for elderly people. And again, we need public support on one side, and on the other side, we need technical solutions that we can do this. So, yes, I think it's essential that we work on these topics, that we speak, that we will have equal possibility for quality life, and all this is necessary. What is right also in this long-term vision for rural areas. We must make this rural pact in which we have both top-down approach and also bottom-up approach. So we must work together, and solutions are always on the local level together with business sector. So I will conclude with this, that during the COVID time, I organized also online wine tasting for my colleagues. We bring them wine, but at the end it was also opportunity for wine producer that they started also to organize this wine tasting to accelerate selling in this time. So there are many different solutions, and sometimes it's necessary to be very creative. But for sure, first of all, we need high-speed connectivity, and I agree this can be also a public right in future.
Okay, thank you very much. And I can only confirm, and I think we all can confirm that digitalization got a big boost during the COVID-19 crisis, and we should use this boost to bring forward all the ideas that have developed now. Should we go as far as declaring the access to high-speed internet as a human right, Luciano?
If you read the 1948 United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, I'd be rather skeptical. I would be hesitant to define these as a human right. I'd like to refer to a fundamental public service. Human rights is the right to privacy, the right to life. They're much stronger than this. Of course, freedom on the internet or the limitations to the freedom of expression and opinion, this is becoming a very topical subject. Think about Twitter. Twitter has been bought by the millionaire Elon Musk, and we don't even know what he's going to do with it. I'd like to go back to education, if you allow me. The topic of education is very interesting, but I think we should start from the idea that remote education during the COVID era was a catastrophe. It was a tragedy. We were not ready, first of all. Secondly, our pupils and students are still coping with the consequences of remote teaching. We had to activate psychological assistance services for all our pupils and students who were not able to attend lessons. I think that remote learning is interesting for mountainous area from a different viewpoint. We have schools with 3 pupils, 8 pupils, very small schools where the risk is that of having psychological difficulties in coping with the others. I belong to the baby boomer generation, and our classrooms were filled with pupils, and we were very happy to have so many fellow pupils. Now, in a small mountain village, you have one classroom with 8 children from 1st grade to the 5th grade, and the problems are self-evident. So in this case, the contact that you can have even through a screen is very important. And we can see that also from the language viewpoint, because the Alps group together many different linguistic minorities. In my case, and we are a bilingual region with Italian and French, being able to establish a contact with neighboring countries, the Swiss in Switzerland and the French in France, this is something beautiful. It's a very nice element, and I'm talking to our Slovenian friends because we have Slovenian students studying in Italy. This is true for all bilingual areas. Linguistic minorities are a source of wealth. And in this case, I think that distant learning can become indeed a human right, so as to be able to speak one's own language. Thank you.
So homeschooling, obviously some regions were not very well prepared to it. It was a high challenge for those regions, sometimes called a disaster, but I would not like to go that far. But really a big challenge. It can be an opportunity, also an opportunity maybe to, and we were not yet talking a lot about this, to bridge borders, really to connect other people from different regions. And this is also one of the ambitions, by the way, of AG3 and AG1, to make better access to universities, for instance, all over the Alpine area. This is really a big challenge and a big opportunity also. You could study today not only in Innsbruck, but also in Bern or in Grenoble or whatever. This would theoretically be possible today. And the common finding is maybe not to talk about a human right, but of services of general economic interest. This is a term which is generally used to say, okay, this is a common standard where every people and every enterprise, wherever it is, all over the country, can then benefit from this service. But there you have to work, dear colleagues, to reach that goal in the European Union. You are not yet there in the European Union. So this would really be a challenge and a task. Now, just a remark, I would like to do this conference until 5:15 because we started at 4:15. So we have 20 minutes now for the discussion, just to arrange ourselves. I would like to integrate also the podium after, the public also afterwards. Before I open the discussion, a last question here on the podium, and I know that you, the young people, have already also discussed about this point, is open data. You mentioned it before, and I know that you have already talked about open data also in the Youth Council, and I think also in the Alpine Convention Youth Parliament, in the connection with mobility. Yeah. What are your points on that?
Well, actually, I will start with my example. Yesterday, when I came here in Trieste, it took me more than 20 minutes to book train ticket. And in 2 weeks, I'm going in Brussels to meet AGT3, and it took me 20 seconds. So why? Did you ask yourself why? And we are seeing here that the national railway companies, they think that they are responsible just on national level, but that's not true, because every day, every hour, people are traveling across the Europe from that side to another side, and we should think more than just on national level. And we are seeing here open data as an opportunity that the national railways companies can improve existing bases. So we won't have any problems with that it took me 20 minutes for booking one simply ticket from Giuliana to Trieste.
You were fortunate.
Yes.
I tried once to buy a ticket from Switzerland to Lyon in France. It was not possible. It was definitely not possible. I even got to the ticket counter. They didn't manage it. We had to buy it in France at the end. So it's really a problem. Lena?
Yes, we had a similar experience. When we wanted to come here, we had to go to the train station 5 times to actually book the tickets, because it was that hard to get tickets for 8 people from Innsbruck to Trieste, which is just ridiculous because it's not that far. And the Youth Parliament actually has same ideas as the Youth Council, because we just don't understand how it's not possible to book a ticket from one country to another without having to actually go to another train station service point and book the tickets in Italy, for example, because that's just a waste of time, actually, because you have 20 minutes to change trains, and then you have to find the service point and actually book the new tickets, so that's just impossible.
I don't know if there are reactions or answers from the podium, from Mirko, Besti. It's not your topic, I know. I ask you if you have reactions on that, or Luciano or Frank. Can you react on that topic? I know it's not your priority topics, so if you cannot react, it's no problem. Mirko?
Beh, si può dire che con il regno austro-ungarico.
Certainly with the Austro-Hungarian Empire, it was easier to reach Trieste from Innsbruck. The train were functioning properly then.
A lot of steps to do before. I think especially for the young generation to understand also the difficulties that there are still now in Europe, because when we are talking about Europe, we are talking about, of course, a great idea, but then if you ask, I think 21 years old, young European active boys and girls, then there are these difficulties that are not understand. You cannot understand these things now in. No, it's difficult, because if you are in Ljubljana and if you want to go to Trieste, then there are all of these mistakes in the system, I would say, because it's really difficult to understand when you're talking about European borders, when you're talking about internal market, when you're talking about the great and huge and important European program in Europe, and then also in the little things there are all of these difficulties that I think that maybe sometimes we have also to focus in the little things to do some progress for all of us.
Now I change for a second my head as moderator into co-leader of Action Group 5. I'm really glad for this input, because we in Action Group 5 we are also discussing about open data. And if we can improve something on that direction, really make data for public transport, for instance, accessible and available all over the Alpine area, then we could do these little things that at the end help all of us to bridge these borders. And I think we are working on that direction with also a roadmap on open data. So we really try to pick up your point. But I would not promise yet that we have it in 5 minutes.
I just wanted to say that a good example for open data is the European transplantation system. So if one in Zagreb maybe need transplantation, and in Vienna appears a human who will give that organs, so this is a like open data system. So if we can do that there, we can do that also here.
Okay. We will try to go into that direction. We take up your comment. It's a priority for us in Action Group 5 as well. And now, question to the audience, or questions from the audience, more or less. Now somebody must move with a microphone. We said that. Who is doing that? Alessio? Yeah. Can you go to the person?
Buonasera. Io volevo sottolineare che sì, il discorso dei dati va bene, di utilizzare gli open data per migliorare per esempio le strutture informatiche delle biglietterie, però il problema è sia interno come funzionamento dei trasporti, sia esterno di connessione anche con gli altri trasporti, perché se per esempio i treni saltano o si fermano, stanno ore ferme, quindi il servizio non è eccellente in generale, parlo per l'Italia, cioè non ha senso che il biglietto me lo posso comprare anche su internet se poi in effetti il servizio non risponde.
To buy the ticket on the net if then the service does not is not at the level of the service. The same is for the intermodal connection. If I manage to buy the ticket with my app, but then the bus does not arrive or is cancelled, then this is a larger problem. This is a problem of all the companies providing transport services, which are very often local companies, but also national-wide companies. And then for example, one of the topic could be connected to the higher birth rate. I would like to focus on the services for the delivery babies and assistance during the delivery for the women, because they suffer from consequences from bad experiences of their deliveries that can be really negative. And anyone wanting to have children, and then we need more flexible services adapted to the person requiring the assistance, because, for example, one person cannot be registered in an hospital if she does not want to be visited by an OB. For example, if she does not want to suffer certain practices that are with wounds and, I mean, different problems that women actually face. And with digitalization, probably they have no connection with the topic we are dealing with today, but actually
than a question, but you raised by rightness the point that it is not only the data for transportation which is important, it is also the services and the intermodality of the different services. It is useless to have only train transports coordinated if then afterwards, for instance, the bus transports, etc., are not coordinated with that again, etc. So it's really a system of systems, and we need data for all of that. By the way, I prolong a little bit what you said. And then you raised another point, which was on the maternity situation, where we have discussed before that people are leaving mountains and that we need more young people there, we need more families, which means also that we need services for young mothers, like childcare services, maternity houses, etc. I don't know if you have discussed about this point also in your workshops. I don't think so, because you focus more on digitalization.
Yeah, we focus more on digitalization, but of course a good point and a good statement of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's also like point of the social equality part, because like young mothers and single mothers also have to have the same opportunities, and their children have to have the same opportunities as everyone else. So that's a really good point. Thank you.
Okay. You have raised your hand. Are there other questions also in the room? Not? Then the lady sitting next to over there. And I think Luciano wanted also to react, but I'm not sure. Let's first have the second question.
Oh no, no questions.
Hi, morning. I'd like to add one thing, because we talked in a group of education, and many complex questions, goals, ambitious questions. Because yes, it's interesting, fast services, fast connectivity, but it's important we reason together, it's important the efficiency of the bureaucracy and also the system of the connectivity. If I have a fast connection, but the services don't work, the same thing say also her, what can I do? And then it's interesting, and we should be ambitious on this question and dialogue together on these values and what values we want to take to the future. And then connectivity, yes, is important value, but efficient too. And also a balanced, realistic knowledge, collectivity knowledge, and this is ambitious and important goals to do. A question to guys, and also to relator there, for the future, which one values we want to preserve, and then how put the innovation integrated and accessibility to the tradition, how we can find that balance. Because yes, fast infrastructure as well, fine, we want smart house, smart home, everything smart, but we need to be human also and find that balance. And the instruction, we talked about connectivity between class and school in two regions different, because yes, small class, piccole classi da 5-8 persone, connected between the countries is possible. We've seen with the pandemic. So I want to add these things because in that group, many suggestions and things that we need together, sharing ideas and find a solution for this is important.
Thank you very much. I hear from your intervention that you had very rich discussions this morning. And maybe I give first the question to the young representatives on this question of values. Where do you see yourselves and your vision of the Alpine area between these more traditional aspects and the more future-orientated aspects that we were discussing with digitalization and other aspects? Where do you see your future values? It's a difficult question. Maybe. Yes.
Actually, I don't know if I have answer for that. Of course, the traditional values are important, but of course we have to also look forward. We have to seek for solutions that it is like that will cross for the both ways. So.
And maybe some of the traditions are just not as up to date as they should be. So in order to not fall behind other countries or other regions, it is important to just let go of those traditions in order to just move on. But it's a difficult question.
It's a very difficult question. No, stop. We cannot take anymore. I would like to hand this question also to Luciano Caveri, if he is able to respond to the question, because you are a very long-time follower of this mountain discussion. You have all seen the traditional values, you have seen now the new values arriving. Where do you see your perspective for the Alpine area between this?
First, I believe that the prospects for the Alpine space are to exchange best practices, and this is one of the reasons why we are here today. And the existence itself of the Alpine arc, which is extremely different, diverse as for example, the languages spoken there, but the problems are the same everywhere. So if in the past it was extremely difficult to reason with in connection with our neighbors, for example, as for the management of water, of waste, of schools, of transport, of the health system. Today, this distance, the Alpine arc is a horizontal area with very difficult situation as for transports. And this is the digital. It is the opportunity to meet anyway, not only physically, but also from the administrative point of view, the exchange of best practices. We do have a legislative regional system that requires ideas coming from the outside. This is the great richness of the Alps. We have the same problems. We have a very similar cultures that developed within different communities, different traditions. So the importance of the digitalization is not what to include in digitalization. Anyone can include in digitalization whatever he or she wants. It can include tradition, innovative aspects, whatever. But we need to have this digital media. Otherwise, it is extremely difficult to act. So what I hope is that EUSALP is not going to become a very technical matter institution, but as at the beginning the different managers meet regularly. I hope this continues. This is the way to do, and then the young people shall have a sort of an Erasmus program for the Alps, for them to meet.
Of the Alps. That would be something for you, particularly. I would like to conclude this meeting with a last round of all the panelists with a very, very concrete question. The Italian presidency has developed like a picture of where we stand with EUSALP. You remember the opening ceremony of the Italian presidency with the trees which we have planted. It was your picture. We have planted some trees in 2016 where we started. It was 1 tree per action group, so 9 trees. Today we have so many trees, we don't see the forest anymore. And the challenge now for EUSALP is a little bit, I feel this is the intention also of the Italian presidency now, to focus more on some key topics. And I would like to start with you, Mirko, as a representative from this Italian presidency, on which, let's say, 2 or 3 topics would you then personally put the focus on in the upcoming years? The same question then afterwards to the other ones.
Li abbiamo toccati però molto.
We did address these main topics, and in order to see the forest of trees we planted together with very solid roots, I believe there's no contradiction between fundamental values, traditional values of the Alpine area and the investment for the future, also thanks to digitalization. Therefore, I believe that some focus are essential. Energy. Energy is definitely one of them. We still address it not enough in the last few years in our country, in Italy, but the ambition to think about the Alpine Arc also for the common difficulties that were mentioned, for the sharing of the best practices to exchange today. For example, as for education, in order to get to know what our neighbors do in the neighboring region, say in Innsbruck, France, or Germany, it is easier today than it was in the past. But certainly the issue of energy is a central issue, not only for the present-day crisis, but also because our area needs in the future to be as sustainable as possible, where sustainability is not just a word, but sustainability is actually a fact. I believe that our area has proved to be very sensitive towards the topic of energy. I am referring to the area of the Alpine Arc, and I think we are. This is one of the key challenges for us to develop our Alpine area, especially with a focus on renewable energies. Another priority for us, and we are working on also for, is education. I'm thinking about the work that is being done on the dual system of the larger connection between the education and training in general and the labor market. Sorry. It's one of the main challenges to be tackled today within EUSALP. We are exchanging ideas and practices in order for the dual system, also with different initiatives that have been mentioned, for example, the Alpine Erasmus, in order to seize the sense of that willingness to create a stronger link from young people from Trieste, Grenoble, or whatever region of EUSALP can get to know and have an exchange. So energy and education are 2 priorities. And then the rural-urban gap that we mentioned at the beginning of this afternoon. And so action and investment of the public administration should be driven to the less populated areas where private investment could not have such a success because they are not as profitable as other areas that are more populated, but we need also to find a synergy on our regions. And I believe that European Union projects are moving in the right direction, trying to connect the more peripheral areas in order to reduce to the minimum the gap.
Put the focus on energy, on education, and then also a territorial focus on the peripheral areas, because there we have a lot of needs to do something. Luciano, do you agree with these 3 points, or do you see other points?
Punti. Yes, I do agree. Yes, now I can see you again. Sorry, you were like cartoons freezing, but now I can see you. I do completely agree with what has been said. I believe the topic of energy is of capital importance. Hydroelectricity is under attack. So the Alpine arc is under attack. So thank you from Valle d'Aosta.
Point. From a European and Slovenian perspective, Frank, where would you put the priorities on?
I started my video message with 3 magic words, digital, green, resilient. And I think that as digital, we must use it as a tool. In European Parliament, we make this regulation on Privacy Market Act, Service Act, so that we accelerate digitalization, but that we also take care about these values, as you said. And in this Service Act is that one of rule that what is allowed in real life, it's allowed on digital and nothing more. And I think here is necessary to do a lot. And as you said, I repeat this, digital
now,
green.
Unfortunately, now we have a connection problem. I think you said connectivity.
Yes, it's better now?
Yeah, it is good.
Okay, it's interesting. My traveling is from France through Luxembourg and to Belgium. It works, so that Europe works also. So the second, equal opportunities for all. Either we speak about energy, and I think it will be very important, and we can connect this with this green board. And the third, resilient, I think it will be very important to think about cohesion in society, cohesion in the village, cohesion between regions, cohesion between countries. And these times are not so easy, and all these tools we speak about can help us to ensure this cohesion in society. And I think it will be necessary to think about this, that really people with problems in income, to ensure their possibility to have, not to protect them from energy poverty or food securities, although under the threat, especially because of price of food. So there are new challenges, and I think that this exchange of experiences and also to listen young people is very important for all of us, and thank you for this opportunity to participate in this conference, either from the car, here from the west part of the Europe.
And we see that connections work across borders. Yeah. Thank you for this really live experience. Now I would like to hand over to close to the young people. So where would you put the priorities on? Lena, or who would like to start today?
Well, if you want, but of course you can for a conclusion. Yeah. First, I must say that I agree with my colleague Franz Bogovic with his proposals, not just because we are both from Slovenia, but because he managed a good point out. But I would like to put out another topic, and I will always fight for that. Actually, it is similar with equality, gender equality. Here in the European Union, I will always fight for gender equality, and I think that this is important things that we have to address in future. Right now, we are seeing here 3 men, 1 woman, but yes, I think that it is our duty in future to pay attention for that, because really, really fast we can be in situation where the gender equality is not here with us. So yeah, I will always pay attention for this.
Thank you very much for this statement.
I can only agree. No, I agree with all of you, and for the WIPEC, for example, the Innsbruck delegations, most of them are female, so that's, I think that's an amazing point. So we have a female voice at WIPEC too. I just think it's important to just listen to young people, as you did today by inviting us, and just giving young people the opportunity to form their future on their own, because it's our future. And I think it's just important that we have a possibility to actually change something and just maybe just give to you our opinions and ideas so you can do something with them, but just hear us. Yeah, thank you.
I have really nothing to add to that. Applause to all the participants of the panel, please. Thank you very much. I will not make much conclusion words now. You have seen that we have really tried to discuss with the young people, try to bring in their input that they have elaborated to this morning on the topic of digitalization, but we have also come to other more visionary concepts. No, but also like, what is the fundamental aim of EUSALP? Why are we doing this? About fighting depopulation, etc., doing something for the young generation. I think we really touched the main topics of today. Thank you very much. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for the Youth Parliament and the Youth Council, really for bringing in your opinions. Mirko, as a representative here from the region, from the Italian presidency, also for being with us all day long. This was really a high pleasure and underlines the importance also that you give to EUSALP. Thank you very much for being with us. And also to the other participants, thank you for having been with us today. I hope that most of you can stay. I hope so. If you cannot stay, have a good trip back. If you can stay, we will have a common dinner tonight at 19:30 for those who are registered in the hotel. So please take this opportunity to exchange also, I think, with local products. I hope so. I hope so. Because I'm very allergic about this point. And we will continue tomorrow for those who stay with the second part, where we are dealing more with technical aspects. We will have some workshops also on different topics, and then also a concluding podium, which might be very interesting. I can only make some publicity for it, because there we will look into the future. What will the next 10 years bring for us on the point of digitalization? I'm very keen on that as well. If you want, we can all now go outside also to join once again the roadshow. I hope that there are some people now outside. Thank you very much once again, and have a nice evening. Thank you very much.